Echoes Beneath the Tide, Part 2. The storm lasted through the night. The wayfarer rocked and groaned under the weight of it, every plank creaking like an old ship's ghost remembering its own death. Elias barely slept. Exhaustion tugged at him, but his mind wouldn't quiet. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the chest sinking away into the dark, swallowed by the sea that both gave and took. By dawn, the storm had broken. A fragile calm settled over the water, gray, bruised, and heavy with the scent of salt and ozone. The world felt washed clean, as if the ocean itself had exhaled after holding its breath too long. Elias sat on the deck wrapped in a blanket, staring at the horizon. Marina emerged from below deck, rubbing sleep from her eyes and holding 2 mugs of coffee that steamed in the cool air. She handed him one and sat beside him without speaking. For a long time, they just listened to the quiet. "It's not lost," she said finally. He glanced at her, brow furrowing. "The chest?" She nodded. "You said it had your name on it. If that's true, it's part of your story. The sea doesn't take things like that by accident. It just waits until you're ready." Elias looked down at the coffee, at the reflection of light shivering on its surface. "You sound like my father." Marina smiled faintly. "No, smart man then." He didn't answer, but the corner of his mouth twitched. The memory of his father's voice, patient, soft, and steady, rose in his chest again. "The ocean isn't a monster, son. It's a mirror. What you bring to it, it gives back." They spent the morning checking equipment and running diagnostics. The sea had shifted the coordinates, and the wreck now rested somewhere beneath a deeper ridge. It would take time to locate again. Time and care. Elias wasn't sure if he was ready to face it yet, but as the sun climbed higher, casting shards of light across the deck, he felt something else. A quiet pull, like a tide beneath his skin. He reached into his gear bag and drew out the old locket. The hinge was still stiff with salt, but when he opened it, his parents' faces smiled back at him, familiar, distant, and impossibly alive. He traced the edge of the photo with his thumb, thinking of the day he'd found it years ago and how it had changed everything. He had come to the ocean chasing its secrets, but now he began to wonder if what he'd really been chasing was connection, the invisible thread between past and present, between loss and discovery. And maybe that was what the sea wanted him to see. "Marina," he said suddenly, looking up, "we're going back down." She raised an eyebrow. "Today?" He nodded. "If it's waiting for me, I won't make it wait longer." Marina studied him for a long moment, then smiled. "Then let's get ready." The second descent felt different. The light was clearer after the storm, the water almost unnaturally still. Schools of silver fish shimmered in slow formation around them, and the coral glowed faintly as sunlight filtered through the waves. The wreck appeared beneath them like a dream-taking shape, more defined now as if the sea had decided to show mercy. Elias's pulse quickened. There, half buried in the sand, the chest lay exactly where it had fallen, untouched. A soft current curled over it like a hand protecting something sacred. Together, they descended toward it. The water was calm, almost reverent. When Elias brushed his glove against the lid, the chest shifted slightly as though it had been waiting for his touch. They cleared away sand, attached the lift bag again, and watched it rise. This time the water remained still. No current, no interruption, just the slow ascent of something that belonged to the surface again. When they finally broke through the water and hauled it onto the deck, Elias felt his chest tighten with emotion. The chest was smaller than he remembered, the wood brittle and warped, but the inscription was still there. Shore and Commerce, a relic of a legacy that had once been lost to the deep. Marina leaned on the railing beside him, watching as he pried the corroded lock open. It snapped with a hollow sound, and the lid creaked upward. Inside was not gold, not jewels or coins. Instead, papers wrapped in oilskin, a brass compass, a few waterlogged books, and tucked carefully within a bundle of letters sealed with wax. Elias lifted one of the envelopes, his hands trembling. The seal was marked with a crest he recognized immediately, his father's. The name scrawled across the front read, "To my son, Elias." His breath caught. He tore the seal gently, unfolding the letter with shaking hands. The ink had bled slightly with age, but the handwriting remained steady and precise. He read in silence, his heart echoing with every word. My dearest Elias, if this reaches you, it means the ocean has done what I always hoped it would, brought you back to where you belong. You were born to the water. It took from us, yes, but it also carries what we could never lose, our love, our memory, and the stories we left behind. If you've found this, then you've already found what matters most, the courage to keep listening to the sea. Love always, Father. Elias lowered the page, blinking hard against the burn in his eyes. For a long while, the only sound was the whisper of waves against the hull. Marina reached out, resting her hand lightly on his shoulder. It found its way home, she said softly. He nodded, unable to speak. The locket felt warm in his pocket, the weight of it now joined by the letters, the compass, and everything they meant. For the first time in years, the ache that had lived behind his ribs, that constant longing, began to ease. The sea hadn't stolen his parents from him. It had held them, protected their memory, and returned it when he was ready to understand. He looked out at the endless horizon where the sunlight now painted a path of gold across the water. The ocean shimmered like a living thing, breathing, watching, eternal, and he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Marina stepped beside him, her shoulder brushing his. So what now? She asked. Elias smiled, faint but certain. Now, we keep going. There's still more out there, more stories, more echoes, maybe even ours. She grinned. You sound like a man starting a legacy. He turned toward her, eyes bright with salt and sunlight. Maybe I am. The Wayfarer drifted gently, its bow pointed toward the open sea. Beneath them, the wreck rested once more, no longer forgotten, but part of something larger. The letters lay safe below deck, the compass steady on the table beside them, its needle unwavering. As the sun sank toward the horizon, Elias stood at the bow again, wind lifting his hair, eyes set on the distant line where sky met water. The ocean glittered like molten glass, beautiful, boundless, forgiving. He breathed in deep, the air heavy with salt and promise. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel like he was searching anymore. He was simply home. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and thank you for watching more videos weekly. Be sure to send me any suggestions you may have for future stories. Have a great day.